Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through research, notes, articles, all sorts of things, really, to bring you the key insights tailored just for you. Today, we're doing something pretty unique. We're exploring anatomy, yes, but through a really specific lens, how certain body parts, from the big stuff down to the microscopic, can actually embody a subpersonality. We're calling this one Tommy.
Right. And our mission here is to really unpack these research notes we've got. We want to pull out the most important bits to understand who Tommy is at his core. And hopefully in doing that, we can offer you a fresh way, maybe even a surprising way, to think about personality itself using these, well, unexpected biological metaphors. It's this fascinating mix of science, culture, identity, all rolled into one.
Okay, let's get right into it then. We're starting with something seemingly simple: fingers. We all have them, obviously, but we rarely think about them quite like this. Scientifically, their main job is interaction, right? Grasping things, manipulating tools, feeling textures, temperature, pressure, all of that. They've got this dual nature. They act and they sense. And of course, they're incredibly expressive. Think about gestures.
Absolutely. And structurally, they're quite the piece of engineering. You've got the bones, the phalanges connecting back to the hand, the metacarpals. Then there are all these muscles, some running up the forearm, others right there in the hand, controlling movement. And it's all wired up with nerves, median, ulnar, radial, plus the blood supply. Is this whole system allowing for both, raw power grips and incredibly fine, delicate movements. And yeah, hand dominance plays a big role in how that all develops.
And their history goes way back. Evolutionarily speaking, they start forming super early in the womb, those little limb buds, and that webbing between them, it actually gets pruned away naturally. Apoptosis, I think it's called. Evolutionarily, they came from our tetrapod ancestors, becoming specialized for manipulating things. The opposable thumb is key for humans, obviously, but it's the dexterity of all the fingers working together that lets us do everything from holding a hammer to threading a needle. Of course, they're also prone to issues, fractures, sprains, carpal tunnel, things like that.
And the brain connection is just astounding. They're hypersensitive. A huge chunk of our brain's processing power, both sensory and motor cortex, is dedicated just to our fingers and hands. Think about reading Braille or playing a violin. That incredible sensitivity and control, it's possible because of how much neural real estate the fingers command. It's like they have this massive map in the brain.
Okay, so that's the biology, which is already pretty amazing. But now let's layer on the cultural and symbolic stuff. This is where Tommy really starts to emerge from the details.
Yeah, it's fascinating how much meaning we pour into our fingers. Symbolically, each one can represent something different. The thumb, maybe willpower, independence. Index finger for direction, authority. The middle finger, well, that often signals power or rebellion. Ring finger, obviously, commitment, union, like with wedding rings. And the pinky, maybe delicacy or secrets, like a pinky promise. Some traditions even link finger length to personality traits, and Chinese medicine connects them to organs, elements.
And we use them in language all the time. Think about it. Wrapped around their finger, that's control. Point the finger, accusation. A green thumb means you're good with plants. All thumbs, clumsy, cross your fingers, hope. These phrases aren't just random. They really reflect these deep social and emotional roles our hands play.
Exactly. And beyond language, think aesthetically. Nail polish, rings, tattoos, ways we decorate them. They're crucial for expression too, pointing, peace signs, other less polite gestures. And in culture, like Indian dance, the mudras, those specific hand gestures carry really deep meanings. Music, essential for most instruments. Rituals use them, wedding rings, blessings, even iconic art like Michelangelo's creation of Adam, that near-touching finger. It's powerful symbolism.
So bringing it back to Tommy, for him, the fingers aren't just physical parts. They represent his hands-on precision, his love for tools, for craft, that connection to real-world materials. It's like when he's designing something intricate or building a model, his fingers are feeling their way through it. The notes describe them as being like musical strings or braille readers interpreting and shaping his reality through touch. And that really captures Tommy's subtle, responsive nature. He's not loud or forceful, but always kind of interacting, making sense of things through direct contact. It's a precision born from that engagement. Okay, let's shift now. From the fingers to the tongue, another incredible instrument. We think taste mainly, but it does so much more. Scientifically, yeah, taste is big, but also speech articulation, forming sounds, manipulating food, swallowing. It's connected into our digestive system, nervous system, muscles, even breathing. It's expressive, sensory, supportive. It does a lot.
It really does. It's this incredibly flexible muscle, anchored at the back, covered in papillae, those little bumps where the taste buds live. It works closely with salivary glands, teeth, and it's controlled by several cranial nerves for both feeling and movement. And there are these constant feedback loops, taste signals the brain, but also the sounds we make and hear influence how we adjust our speech. It connects physical sensation with, well, communication.
Developmentally, it forms pretty early in the embryo, and evolution-wise, the human tongue became highly specialized for articulate speech, which is a major difference from other animals. It heals quite quickly, too, which is good. And medically, its appearance, color, texture can be a diagnostic clue, both in modern medicine and traditional systems like TCM.
Oh, absolutely. The symbolism of the tongue is incredibly rich across cultures. It stands for expression, truth, identity, but also sometimes rebellion or deceit, like the idea of a forked tongue. You see it in mythology, like the Hindu goddess Kali with her tongue out, symbolizing immense power. And as you mentioned, traditional Chinese medicine uses tongue diagnosis extensively. It's seen as like a map of the body's internal state.
And the idioms, just like with fingers, they show how central the tongue is to our social world. Bite your tongue, holding back. Silver tongue eloquence. Cat got your tongue. Silence. Tongue-tied nervousness. Sharp tongue, tongue-in-cheek.
Exactly. Each one points to how the tongue is linked to identity, power, emotion, all the nuances of how we communicate.
Culturally, yeah, it can be hidden or it can be deliberately shown, like with tongue piercings. Some tribal rituals historically involve the tongue.
And in art and literature, it often represents something potent. Tongues of fire for divine inspiration. Or think of the Rolling Stones logo. That tongue is pure attitude, right? It's aversive.
So for Tommy, the tongue connects to his selective voice. The idea that he doesn't talk constantly, but when he does, it's chosen carefully. It's meaningful, precise, layered. It also reflects his refined emotional palate, like he's sensing subtle nuances in situations, almost like tasting hidden flavors. The metaphor used is like a calligraphy brush or a tuning fork, used sparingly but masterfully. It's not about being loud, it's about precision and impact. It lets him blend flavor and voice, linking that sensory appreciation with thoughtful language, a very specific way of expressing himself. All right, now we're going deeper into the brain itself, specifically to Broca's area. You could call it the composer of speech. Neurologically, its main gig is speech production, language articulation. It handles grammar, word order, fluency, basically turning thoughts into spoken language. It's very motor-oriented, coordinating the muscles we use to speak. And interestingly, it's involved in our other speech, too, that voice inside our heads.
Right. It's usually located in the left hemisphere, in the frontal lobe, right near the motor cortex, controlling the face and mouth muscles. And it's heavily connected to other brain areas, especially Wernicke's area, that's more about understanding language via a pathway called the arcuate fasciculus. Think of it like a crucial hub, coordinating with the motor system, understanding centers, even areas involved in rhythm and planning, like the basal ganglia and cerebellum. Neurotransmitters like dopamine are important here too.
Developmentally, it starts working early, as kids learn to talk. And it's quite plastic in childhood if it's damaged early on. Sometimes other areas can compensate. But in adults, damage there can cause Broca's aphasia. People with this often understand language fine, but speaking becomes really difficult. Halting, effortful. They know what they want to say, but struggle to get it out. You can imagine the frustration, the isolation. It can really impact someone's sense of self.
Yeah, absolutely. And symbolically, Broca's area carries some powerful archetypes. It's like the translator, converting inner thoughts into something understandable outside, or the builder, constructing sentences, organizing language, maybe even the fire starter, initiating expression. It's so deeply tied to our personal voice, our linguistic identity, how we engage in dialogue. Damage doesn't just affect speech. It can shake confidence, change social roles.
It's often just called the speaking part, but that's a bit simplistic, isn't it? It's more about the
Mhm.
structure, the grammar, the whole orchestration of language production.
Exactly. And interestingly, there are parallels with music processing too. The timing, the rhythm of syllables.
Hmm.
It's involved in that, almost like a composer arranging notes or a drummer keeping time. You could picture it like an engineer in a recording studio, patching things together, editing, making sure the final output makes sense.
Which leads to some deeper thoughts, doesn't it? Broca's area kind of embodies our fundamental need to be understood. It's the bridge between what's inside and what we can share outside.
Right. That gap between feeling and saying. And its potential fragility highlight how delicate communication really is. One little disruption can really affect that whole process. It makes you wonder, Is our identity more about what we can say or what we sometimes struggle to articulate?
So, applying this to Tommy, Broca's area represents the cognitive architect of his speech. It's less about the content of his feelings and more about how he shapes thoughts into something communicable. It's his ability to refine, organize, and output thought as meaningful structure, whether that's in conversation or maybe in designing a game system or building a complex world. The metaphor fits. He's the editor, arranger, or engineer of the mind's symphony, giving form to ideas. But there's also that shadow side mentioned in the notes. When he's overwhelmed, he might go quiet, not because he has no ideas, but maybe because there's just too much to organize effectively at once. Okay, last stop on our biological tour, and we're zooming way, way in to the microscopic level, the rough endoplasmic reticulum, the RER. Scientifically, its main job is making and processing proteins. It's called rough because it's studded with these little things called ribosomes. They're the protein factories. The RER takes those freshly made proteins and helps them fold correctly, adds chemical tags, does quality control. It's fundamental to the cell's manufacturing process.
Yeah, picture it like this complex folded membrane network inside the cell, often connected right to the nucleus where the instructions, the DNA, are kept. It works super closely with the ribosomes on its surface and then passes proteins along, often to the Golgi apparatus for more processing and packaging. It really is like an industrial factory inside the cell. You find it in all complex cells, eukaryotes, but it's especially abundant in cells that need to secrete lots of proteins, like, say, plasma cells making antibodies. It's truly foundational.
And when it messes up, well, that can cause big problems. Protein misfolding diseases like cystic fibrosis or even some neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's can be linked to issues here. It can also get overwhelmed stress, which triggers this whole cellular alarm system. If the stress is too much or too prolonged, it can even lead to the cell dying, though the cell does have ways to try and cope first.
So, okay, this tiny cellular machine, what does it symbolize? Well, it really speaks to craftsmanship, precision, that vital behind-the-scenes work. The analogy of a composer crafting arrangements or a chef meticulously preparing ingredients that fits quite well. Psychologically, it suggests focus, detailed care, dedication to a task, that supportive processing quality, unseen maybe, but absolutely essential. And the shadow side, burnout, like that factory getting overloaded and starting to break down under the pressure.
Creatively, you could maybe compare its steady procedural work to something like industrial rhythms in music or the detailed mechanical forms in some art.
Right. Or in a team context, it's the producer, the technician, the person ensuring quality control, the quiet expert making it all happen correctly. Mythologically, it brings to mind figures like Hephaestus or Wayland the Smith, those master craftspeople, often working away diligently in their forge or workshop.
And philosophically, it makes you think about the value of unseen labor, right? The power that lies in process and structure.
Exactly. That hidden order beneath creation, the quiet, constant work that makes complex things possible. It raises questions like, what happens when that internal balance is lost? And what does it take, often quietly, to restore things?
And so finally, for Tommy, the RER is described as a perfect reflection of his core identity, a quiet powerhouse. It represents him stitching together proteins of meaning, expression, and design. Metaphorically, he's building the scaffolding for his creative projects, his systems. The metaphor really lands, the craftsman's workshop or the engine room below decks. Not flashy, but utterly essential. And the emotional side of it is how Tommy shows care through acts of service, through quiet persistence, through being incredibly reliable and detail-oriented. He's the one making sure it all works.
Wow. So looking back, what a journey, huh? From fingers in the tongue, through Broca's area in the brain, right down to the cellular RER. We've really built up this multi-layered picture of Tommy. It's been fascinating to see how we can blend the hard science with these really personal, symbolic meanings. It really has. And I think the key takeaway is just how deeply these different biological parts, things we might not think about much, actually influence and reflect who we are. Our identity, how we communicate, how we create. They aren't just functional bits of machinery. They're soaked in meaning. They're constantly shaping our experience.
Which leaves us with a thought for you listening. How many of your own traits, or maybe the quirks of someone you know, could be seen in a new light through this kind of lens, through these surprising biological metaphors? Maybe consider those hidden connections between our physical selves and our deepest identity. They might be telling a story you just haven't quite heard before.